Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com and welcome to this week's episode of Phone Dog Live, the podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm glad everyone could be here. We're live on Ustream, so thanks for watching if you're able to watch live. You can also watch on our Facebook page. And you can also watch the recording. So if you're joining us afterwards, if you're watching the recording of this on YouTube, thanks for watching. How's it going? Check out the timeline in the description below the video, and so you can kind of jump around. But we do have some exciting topics today, so I don't even know if you're gonna want to jump around because we have stuff to talk about. So first, the trial between Apple and Samsung officially started. You remember before we had a lot of updates about this, but they were all like preliminary injunctions and motions for all kinds of crap because the actual thing hadn't even started yet. But it has now gone to trial, and this is actually a pretty big deal because a lot of these patent lawsuits, they settle out of court, you know, with a licensing agreement or just with a settlement, you know, for money, for cash or whatever. You know, a lot of times they just settle out of court because that's really all the other company wants is just like, you know, hey, you stole our patent and you made money off of it, pay us back for that. And so that's really all they want is just money. So for this case to actually go to court and go to trial is kind of a big deal because it doesn't happen very often. But it has gone to trial, and the trial started this past week. The jury was selected. It's actually kind of cool because, you know, it's like a movie, like the whole jury selection. I don't know if you guys saw that movie, The Runaway Jury, with, what's that guy? John Cusack and Rachel Weisz, however you pronounce her name, Weisz. Anyway, really good movie. So, but if you haven't seen it, it's about, obviously, a trial and the jury and everything. But, you know, like watching that movie and like how they select the jury. So now every time I see a trial and I see them selecting the jury, I'm just like, ooh, I know like what they're doing behind the scenes to select the jury. At least I think so. I don't know. They could have just all been fake. But the jury was selected, and it took a while because, you know, this is Apple and Samsung, two of the biggest companies out there, just, you know, not just in technology, but just, you know, in the world. Because, you know, think about it, technology is a huge part of our lives. And so, you know, pretty much every household in the you know, in the US at least has either an Apple or a Samsung product, whether it's, you know, not just a phone, but, you know, maybe a TV, DVD player, Blu-ray player, a phone, a tablet, a computer. I mean, Samsung and Apple, those are huge companies, and so they had to find people who, you know, weren't Apple fanatics or weren't, you know, didn't own a lot of Samsung products because, you know, maybe they like the brand or something. So it took a while. They finally selected them. The opening statements were made. There's a couple of interesting things about the trial itself. Apple will be allowed to use, or they were allowed to use references to Steve Jobs in their opening statements, and I assume throughout the trial. I don't think this refers to simply like statements that Steve Jobs made, because I think that would be pretty basic. At least the impression that I got is that this would actually be, you know, I don't want to say using him because that kind of sounds wrong, but you know, Apple was Steve Jobs' company and he built it, and so you know, everything that he made was really important to him and therefore the world. He's seen as an icon, and so you can imagine for him this was a pretty big deal, and so they will be allowed to use him and his statements throughout the proceedings. Samsung made their opening statements. You know, obviously we know Apple's case. We know what they're saying. They have the patents. Samsung violated the patents. And then they go further with trade dress, saying that Samsung copied Apple's style. You know, maybe it wasn't like a patented, you know, logo or something, but just their style they copied to make it look like an Apple product or something. So, you know, Apple brought all of that out. Samsung's case is that, one, they're saying that these patents aren't even, they're not even valid, because they're saying that their designs that they patented were already created by other people, other companies. They have prior art, which is a big deal with this. Prior art is probably one of the biggest pieces of evidence, or one of the biggest arguments that they have. And they do have it. They have prior art. People in the 80s, the 90s, that created either real products or just had the drawings or had the designs, and they were published somewhere, of products that looked a lot like the iPhone or looked a lot like the iPad. So they're saying that these patents aren't even valid. And they have a couple of other arguments too. Of course, they have to defend themselves and say that we didn't copy Apple's design. And, if we did, if it does look similar, well, they copied someone else. So, we were just going along with basically what everyone wants. And it was kind of interesting. One of the points that the Samsung lawyer made, and I thought it was actually a really good point. He said, we want to innovate, that's kind of our job, but we also give our customers and give the consumer what they want. And so if the consumer wants a touchscreen device, then we're going to make a touchscreen device. And so, and it kind of made sense because Apple said, well, we have all of these products like the Samsung Blackjack and all these other phones that were released around 2006, 2007, even up in 2008 or 2009, that had QWERTY keyboards and all these buttons and stuff. And then as soon as the iPhone came out, they all just make all touchscreen phones and there's no buttons on them. And they're well, why would you do that aside from you just want to copy us? And so Samsung is saying, well, yeah, we started making all touchscreen phones because that's what consumers wanted. And so we made it. And it's when you think about it, that's a good point. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out in the legal system. I don't know if that's a valid argument. I'm just I'm a person. I don't have a lot of legal knowledge, but it seems like a really valid point. So kind of just an interesting point there. But the opening statements have been made. There's been a couple of testimonies from Apple employees. Phil Schiller was there. Also, one of the employees or one of the designers on the design team, Johnny Ive, was not there, but one of the people from his team was there. And so they kind of talked about the process of how they design a product and how they design a phone, and how they do all of that. Not a lot of it was related to, at least to me, it didn't seem like they were getting to a point. They kind of just talked about how they designed a particular product. Obviously, the people are very indignant, and so they did throw in their opinions. Of course, this is Phil Schiller, the people that designed the iPhone, and so they say, yeah, we got ripped off. And so, they kind of threw that in there, but, we'll have to see. Obviously, this is going to take a lot longer. But one of the big things, already there's some drama. So, like I said, prior art is a really important part of Samsung's case, and it's a very valid part. It's up to the courts to see how relevant it is, but I think it is a very valid argument, prior art, and we've talked about that before in other shows. But a problem came up. Samsung wanted to use prior art, and actually it was its own product, and the F700 phone is what it was referred to. It was never made, I don't believe. It could have been made, but it was in development months before Apple announced the iPhone. And if you look at it, it actually looks a lot like the iPhone. Not necessarily it was like a mirror image, like they just copied it, but kind of just that idea of an all touchscreen phone. And when you think about it, there's only so many ways that you can design that, and so it actually looks a lot like it. And the point is, well, hey, we were already thinking about designing a phone like this before you announced the iPhone. So yeah, later on after the iPhone we came out with this phone, but we already had it in development a long time ago. Excuse me. So they wanted to use this as evidence, but it was denied. They were not allowed to include it in the trial because they produced it too late in the discovery process, which really kind of sucks. But you have to do your homework. You have to know when you got to get this stuff done. You have deadlines, and so it's a very valid piece of evidence, but they weren't allowed to enter it, because they entered it too late. Also, another thing, another piece of evidence they wanted to use was emails between Apple employees that showed open discussions of mimicking Sony's style. They said they were pursuing a Sony style design for the iPhone, and so they wanted to use those emails as well. But again, they weren't allowed to because they produced them too late. So on the one hand, it's like, ugh, that's such a good piece of evidence, but they can't use it because they submitted them too late, and so they actually several times requested to have these used in the trial. So many times the judge, actually Lucy Coe, we've talked about her before, the judge actually got upset, and she's no, I'm not going to let you, okay, you got in too late, just drop it, okay? So they weren't allowed to, but then later that day, just right after they were denied using it, these pieces of evidence were mysteriously released to the public, released to the press. They were already made public. That's kind of Samsung's argument here, is that these pieces of evidence, they're already made public. Apple actually refers to them in the trial. So they didn't release secret or confidential information, but these pieces of evidence somehow got released to the public with a note saying fundamental fairness requires that the jury decide the case based on all the evidence. And so it was a big deal because obviously this was Samsung somehow trying to, bite everyone in the butt. And it was actually John Quinn, the lawyer, who did it. He admitted to it. He said, he wasn't trying to change the jurors' opinions or interfere. He just he felt like the evidence should be out there. The judge was furious. They said she was livid whenever she found out about it, because it's I guess it's not illegal, obviously, or else something would have happened, but it is kind of like, the judge who, the honorable judge, you're supposed to respect her rulings. That's the whole reason you go to court, is because you respect her rulings. She denied it, and for you to sidestep that and go behind her back, it's like, whoa, you just don't do that. So she was furious. She said, I want Mr. Quinn's declaration as to what his role was. I want to know who authorized it. She was completely upset. And they eventually moved on. But, and the funny thing was, so Apple obviously was extremely pissed off, but they kind of overreacted, at least I think they did. So Apple is like, well, you have to just dismiss this now and rule in our favor because this is ridiculous. And, now you have to rule this in our favor and just throw it out and we win because they did this. And it's like, okay, Apple, yes, I definitely think that Samsung went a little bit too far, but you can't just, say that Apple won because Samsung, released a piece of evidence saying that you were wrong, which is actually kind of backwards when you think about it. But of course their request was denied, and so the trial will continue. But definitely some drama there, and it kind of shows how serious this is and how probably dramatic it's going to be going forward because, like I said, it's a huge case. Apple and Samsung, they're the two biggest competitors. It's not a coincidence that Apple is suing Samsung. And I've talked about this before, and you guys know my feelings about this trial. Apple could have sued anyone. They could have sued Motorola. Well, they are suing Motorola and HTC, but they could have sued LG. They could have sued Huawei. They could have sued ZTE. They could have sued anybody. Some of these crap names that we don't even know about. They could have sued any of these companies. They could have sued Google if they wanted to, but they didn't. They sued Samsung because Samsung is the one who is their next biggest competitor in terms of money, in terms of sales. So it's not a coincidence that they're suing Samsung. So, this is a really huge trial, and, kind of just shows it's going to be dramatic. We're probably going to have some stuff to talk about for the next couple of weeks. And honestly, I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I don't. I think Apple has valid arguments, and I've said this before. It's basically just going to come down to the judge, and I think I will be willing to trust her decision because I think Apple has valid arguments. I think Samsung has valid arguments. It just depends on who, you know, and it's funny, what was that line in that movie, Tom Cruise? He said, it doesn't matter what I know, it matters what I can prove. And so, you know, it may seem like Apple has the best case in the world. It may seem like Samsung has the best case in the world, but it doesn't matter what it seems like or what we know. It matters who can prove it, who can make their side sound more, who can make their argument sound more logical. So it's going to be interesting, and I hope that, you know, either way, I hope that whatever the ruling is, I hope it's fair. You know, I don't want Samsung to owe like freaking billions and trillions of dollars and not be allowed to make phones ever again and all kinds of crap. I mean, if they did it, pay the money, do the time, you know, all that. But, you know, I like Samsung products and I like Samsung's Android phones, and so I admit, you know, maybe they did copy the iPhone. I don't know. I mean, because I'm not Samsung. I don't know what their intentions were. You know, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that they did copy them. I hope they can pay their dues and then keep making phones, because I think they make great phones. And Apple, I think Apple makes great phones, so I hope they can keep making phones. But, you know, we'll have to see. So a lot of interesting things are coming out of this trial. You've seen, if you follow the news and you follow Phone Dog, which you probably do, because you know you guys are all awesome, so you probably do that. There's been a lot of leaked phones from this case. I don't know what it is, but in the paperwork, in the documents, there's tons of information about phones that we didn't know about before, that are, you know, that were going to be released, that are going to be released, that are, you know, maybe later on going to be released. And so, you know, you guys have heard a lot about that. But now the trial has actually started, and they've started talking about the iPhone design and how they went about doing it. We've gotten to see about nearly 40 prototypes that Apple was considering using for the original iPhone, and it's actually pretty cool. I have a slideshow here, so you can take a look at it. There's actually pictures here of prototype iPhones and the iPad, but you can see some of these designs. They all look great. I really like this one, but obviously it didn't get used. This one, you know, some of them are great, and then some of them are just ugly. You can kind of see the original iPhone. That one was a lot like it. This one was just ugly. But you can kind of see this looks a lot like the HTC Amaze. But then a lot of them are like the iPhone 4. You know, kind of like this one and this one. So you're like, wow, you didn't actually come out with a new design. You just used an old one that you rejected, basically. But you can see some of these other ones. This one's ugly. I really don't like this one, but it's kind of cool to see all these prototypes that Apple was thinking about using. At least for me, I've wanted to know. This is the iPad. There's only a couple of these. You may not be able to see all of the details in the pictures, but a couple of these designs that they were thinking about using, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's the last one. So the interesting thing about these iPad designs, first of all, it's just cool to see, you know, the iPhone prototypes. They said they actually had like 100, like maybe 100 prototypes of the iPhone, and then they eventually, you know, settled on one. But the interesting thing about the iPad design was they talked about an iPad design where the edges actually curved. I think they curved down, so they curved underneath, and it was like a lip. And I had the picture, but I don't know if you could actually see that detail. So it was like an edge that kind of curled down, and it gave you sort of a grip there while you're holding the iPad. And so it's kind of, you know, interesting. Obviously, they ditched it because it was stupid. But so, you know, you kind of think, oh, okay, so, you know, Samsung could easily come up with some of this stuff, you know, some of these different kind of designs. But the interesting thing is that, well, Apple ended up not using those designs, so why would Samsung? I mean, if Apple didn't like those designs, if Apple thought that the curved lip was stupid, you know, why would Samsung use that? So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you're playing the devil's advocate with yourself, because you're like, oh, okay, so there are other designs, but then you're like, well, yeah, but those other designs are ugly, and they don't make any sense, and nobody would want that because it's ugly. It doesn't make any sense. So of course Samsung wouldn't think to use designs like that, whether they saw them or whatever or not. At least that's what I thought. But then you think, well, if Apple had used that design of the lip on the iPad that curves down for a grip, would everyone else have used it? I don't know. I mean, I would like to think not, because again, I think it's stupid, but we'll never know because Apple decided not to use it, and the reason is because it's stupid and ugly. You can go like round and round in circles. It's really interesting, at least to me, I think. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty cool to see some of those prototypes, because I actually used to Google that a lot because, I started wondering, like, man, I wonder what, or I always wondered, like, what people thought the iPhone would look like, because we heard rumors about it. We knew that they were going to do something, but, obviously we weren't really sure. And so I always wanted to see, like, some of these mock-ups that people create, like for the iPhone 5, but what were they thinking of back then with the original iPhone? And if you Google them, they're all dumb. They're like, I saw one, it was like an iPod, but the little circle thing for the volume, the touch-sensitive thing, was like a rotary dial, like those old phones that you guys might not even know about those, but it's like a circle, and then you grab the one and then drag it around, and then it goes back, and grab the two and drag it around. Obviously, the iPhone wouldn't have been like that, but it was like the same style, same concept. It was really dumb. I'm just like, yeah, okay. This is why you don't work for Apple, okay? And then there were a lot of them were like basically like an iPod, but just kind of, changed or customized a little bit. But I always wanted to see, what Apple's prototypes were like, and so it's kind of just cool and interesting to see those. Speaking of the iPhone 5, a video was leaked, and I wanted to show you the video, but I just remembered that I forgot to do that. But we do have pictures. This is a leaked panel. It's the front glass panel. I'll just show it to you so you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't have to freaking explain myself. Okay, so here it is, and as far as we can tell, this is the real deal. In the video, the guy is using it, and it's glass. It looks very official. I don't know, which obviously means that it's real because it looks real, of course. That's a stupid reason. But anyway, if it is real, you can see it's a little bit taller than the iPhone 4S, but it's not wider. It's actually the same width, which to me is very comforting because we had heard for a long time that the iPhone 5's display would be wider but just slightly taller. And I thought that was really dumb. And I think I was like, well, okay, I can understand them doing that because the iPad, it's got that 4:3 aspect ratio. So maybe in the iPhone right now has like a 4:3 aspect ratio, so maybe they want to keep it that way. So I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but I thought it was ugly, and I was hoping they wouldn't use it. And so maybe if this is real, maybe that means they won't use it. So you can see it's not wider, it's just taller. It is actually the screen, the touch panel, is 0.1 millimeters thinner than the iPhone 4S touch panel, which isn't a lot, but they say it's going to be thinner. It will also be like scratch resistant. This one, he did like a ton of tests on it and scratched it with a key, and it didn't scratch at all. You can also see that the arrangement has kind of been changed. This isn't a big deal, but it's just, kind of interesting. So you can see this one compared to the iPhone 4S, the FaceTime camera is now moved above the speaker grill or the earpiece, which I think is nice. I mean, having it off to the side like that, I know with phones that I test, whenever they're way off to the side, it's really weird because you have to have the phone tilted at an angle, and it's just really uncomfortable. So now it's going to be directly above the earpiece. And that's it. It's just a touch panel. It's just a glass panel, but we're seeing more and more kind of, I would call them confirmations. They're just rumors, more and more leaks of an iPhone with a larger display. And so I think at this point we can expect to see an iPhone with a larger display. Other things like, exactly how big it will be, or will it be an LTE device, things like that. We're not really sure about. We can reason yes, it better be, because it would be really dumb if it wasn't, and I would laugh. I would laugh hysterically if the iPhone 5 was not an LTE device. I would actually go to my friends who are Apple fans and like just point and laugh. I know that would be really mean, but you know, I think it's gonna be an awesome phone just because the iPhone always is. You know, you guys know personally iOS isn't really my thing, but I think, you know, it's still a great operating system. But it's like, come on, okay, seriously, it's 2012. By the time it comes out, it's almost gonna be 2013. LTE is pretty much standard. I mean, come on, I can get a phone for $50 on Sprint that's an LTE device. I can get a phone for free on T-Mobile that's a 4G phone. I can get a prepaid phone. I can go to Metro PCS for $45 a month, get LTE, okay? And you're telling me that Apple can't make an LTE iPhone? Like, yeah, right, okay? I don't want to hear that crap. It better be an LTE phone. And we might see it on September 21st. We're hearing that it could be announced on September 12th at an event, and it will launch on September 21st. Again, a leak. This is a rumor, but you know, we'll see. We're hearing that at this event, not only will we see the new iPhone, we'll also see the iPad mini, or whatever they're going to call it, and maybe a new iPod. You know, the iPod Nano and the iPod Touch haven't really been updated that much. The iPod Touch hasn't been updated at all in a while, and so we could see new iPods. You know, I don't know. I don't know what changes they would make. I don't know how they would improve them, but you know, that's not my job. That's their job to figure that out. But definitely they say we're going to see the iPhone at that event on September 12th. So that's it's about a month, you know, a month and a week away, just in time for back to school. So we'll see. So that's Apple. That's the iPhone. That only took up like half the show. Let's move on to some Android news. If you are not eagerly anticipating the next iPhone, then you may be eagerly anticipating the Galaxy Note 2, which is 2 in Spanish. Yeah, I know. I'm all international and stuff. I know other languages. Actually, I don't. I'm actually half Mexican. You guys, I've probably said that before. I don't look half Mexican because, well, my dad's white, and so, you know, the white and the Mexican, they kind of, you know. Anyway, so my mom, like, spoke Spanish, but I don't know any. I mean, I know a little bit of Spanish, and I can read it a little bit, but mostly just because I was around it. Like, I never really learned how to speak it. I took 3 years of Spanish in high school and subsequently forgot, like, all of that, so it was really pointless. This is going to be in Berlin. Do I know any German? I don't think so. Anyway, Samsung's Unpacked event is set for August 29th in Berlin. And we're hearing that we could see the Galaxy Note 2. That's according to a Samsung spokesperson who remained anonymous. But, so again, you know, a rumor, it's not confirmed, but I mean, it's pretty confirmed. I mean, I don't know what else we would see. Maybe the Galaxy Note, well, the Galaxy Note 10.1, that's already on sale now. What's that website? That one website that sells all those international phones where everyone buys them from, Negri Electronics? I think Negri Electronics, yeah. They started selling the Galaxy Note 10.1. So, you know, that wouldn't really be a huge announcement. It's already on sale now. So, really, the only other device we're expecting is the Galaxy Note 2. So, it'll probably be that one. We don't know a whole lot about it in terms of, you know, what the specs are or what they could be. Let me see if we know anything about that. Yeah, we don't really know anything. I mean, I'm assuming a larger display, maybe better display, maybe a quad-core processor or something. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that'll be on August 29th, which is in, you know what, like not even a month. What is today, the 3rd? So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Yeah, it's about a month. Let's see, we have the DROID RAZR and the Sony Xperia SL. The Sony Xperia SL has been caught on camera, and so we have pictures, because I always have pictures. I like pictures. That way you don't have to look at me the whole time. This is the Sony Xperia SL, and it looks pretty hot if you look at it. I love Sony designs. I mean, they don't always make the best phones, but their designs are freaking awesome. And so this one, I mean, you can see it looks a lot like the Xperia S. It actually is basically the Xperia S, hence the name Xperia SL. It's just kind of a little bit like improved Xperia S. So, you know, you get it, Xperia SL. But it has a nice design. It's going to come with a silver and pink color option. So this is a silver one, obviously. And then you can also get one in pink. And here it is compared to the Galaxy S3. So you can kind of see the size, basically what it looks like. But it's basically an Xperia S, just a little bit better. 4.3 inch, 720p, gap-free reality display. The difference is that the Xperia SL will have a 1.7 gigahertz processor, whereas the Xperia S had a 1.5 gigahertz processor. So, a little bit of a difference there. But the display is the same. Again, like I said, different color options, the same 12 megapixel camera. The Xperia S shipped with a dual-core processor. I kind of wonder if this is going to have a quad-core processor, but, you know, we don't know. And so for now, the only differences that we know of are 1.5 to 1.7 gigahertz and then different colors. But other than that, it's an Xperia S, and we'll have to wait for that to become official. The DROID RAZR HD, we also have some pictures of that. Let me see. Here's the back. You can see it's got that Kevlar coating on it, so it's like really super duper tough. Sorry about that, I'm back. And then here's one of the front. You can see it basically looks like the DROID RAZR and that same kind of Motorola design with the tapered corners there. And then here's another picture of the back of it. You know, again, basically the same thing. No more new details on this. This is just the pictures. And so, so far, what do we know about the RAZR HD? We're hearing that it will be a world phone. We're hearing that it could have a 4.6-inch 1280 by 720 display, a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, Android 4.0, and LTE. And will obviously be on Verizon because Droid is Verizon's branding for Android phones. So yeah, we don't have a release date. We don't have a whole lot of details outside of that. It's shaping up to be a pretty good phone. You know, I think nowadays it's like anytime a phone doesn't have a quad-core processor, we're like, so it's a piece of crap, basically. But the funny thing is, like, when it comes to the US, it doesn't have a quad-core processor, it has a dual-core processor anyway, so it's like, I don't know why, like, maybe it's just me, but when I read it, it's like, oh, it's just a dual-core processor, but then it's like, well, all the phones in the US are only dual-core, so if it's a dual-core processor, then it's still pretty awesome, but it's just, after hearing of all these quad-core these phones with quad-core processors, and you're with a dual-core, it's just like, it's not very exciting, but in the US, that's all we get anyway, so it's still going to be an awesome phone. 4.6-inch HD display, Android 4.0. You know, who knows, by the time it's released, it might even get a bump up to Android 4.1. I doubt it, but, you know, we'll see. And an LTE. So, yeah, it'd actually be a pretty awesome phone. It'd be a world phone, so if you travel a lot. That's one of the nice things now. You know, it used to be like the world phones were all the crappy phones. So if you, like, you could be in the States and be like the ultimate businessman with your awesome phone and it was so great, but then when you travel out of the country, you're like that loser with the stupid flip phone. But now it's like you can actually have an awesome phone in the States and whenever you go traveling out of the country because you can get an awesome world phone like the RAZR HD. So that's pretty cool. And that's, yeah, that's actually all the news that we have. I'm finishing early. It always throws me off whenever stuff gets sent over there, but that is neither here nor there. Okay. So yeah, we're finishing up kind of early, but unfortunately that was just simply all of the news. And so I guess you guys won't mind if we move on to the open Q&A, will you? No? Okay. Oh, hey, Joey was here. I didn't even realize Joey was here. Joey Leto from Droid Dog. Hey, sorry I didn't say hi, but hi, Joey. Okay, so yeah, we can move on to the open Q&A, and you can just ask me anything. I'll be on Facebook too, so. It seems so early, 4:36. That's a little early. Hopefully Aaron won't get mad at me. He's probably already upset with me because I was supposed to have a dogfight done today, but I didn't have time to finish. I had this dogfight. It's the HTC One S versus the LG Viper, and so he told me about it, and I got started, and I had the show at 4, and I just got started around 1 or 2 or something because I was getting ready for the show. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to finish it today, so I hope he's not upset with me. So is the Photon Q, Atrix HD, and the RAZR HD basically the same? Are they? Let me see. Atrix HD and the RAZR HD. Well, the Photon Q has a QHD display, whereas the Atrix and the RAZR HD have an HD display, obviously, so higher resolution. The camera is probably the same. The processor is probably the same. So yeah, you're right. They are basically the same, but the Atrix and the RAZR HD have better displays than the Photon Q. Do the dog fight now? Well, I already filmed it. I was editing it, and so I didn't get to finish that. Sydney, who's the phone dog mascot? A dog, I guess. I don't know. Okay, I missed a bunch of questions. Do you think all Windows Phone 7.5 will get updated to 7.8? I believe so. I believe all of them will. At least that was the impression I got. Sydney, if you get fired, you can always work at McDonald's. Okay. What's the phone you've been most anticipating for this year? Well, probably the Galaxy S3. I mean, that's already out, but I was really excited about that one. And other than that, I'm really excited about the Windows Phone 8 offerings coming this fall. We don't really know anything about them except for a couple of Samsung devices, but what we've heard, they're going to be pretty awesome. Dual-core Snapdragon S4 processor, HD displays, things like that. So, finally something that can keep up with everything else out there. So, I like Windows Phone. You guys know that. So, I'm excited about those. I have a Motorola Atrix 2, and they said it would be upgraded in Q3. Has there been any new info on specific dates? The Atrix 2. Yeah, I don't know. I have Q3 as well, so I guess they're just late. Hey, Sydney, tell me good under 250 tablet or less. I'm thinking Playbook. Get the Nexus 7. Get that tablet. Do you know when Microsoft Surface is supposed to be released? Yes. Yes, the Microsoft Surface will be released on... Dang it, why didn't I write down that date? October 23rd? Is that right? We talked about that last week, and I should have written down the date. I think it's October 23rd. Do any of your coworkers have a dog? Taylor has a dog. I know that. I don't know about anyone else. When you're not writing or shooting videos for a phone dog, what are your other duties for the site? I have my Facebook Q&A on Wednesdays where I log on and just talk to you guys all day. Reviews, articles. I have this. I do my smartphone rankings. I do those. But really my primary duties are reviews. Oh, and then the dog pound on Mondays. So I always have work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays are saved for reviews. But I don't really do a lot of written work. I've wanted to. Aaron says he likes keeping me on video content, so that's my primary job. Would you say Nokia is the best hardware maker? Yeah, I'd say, Nokia, HTC has some great hardware. Apple, I think the iPhone 4S is the best looking phone out there. That's just it, in my opinion, I think. But the Lumia 900 definitely, Lumia 900 is probably second for me. That's one of the best looking phones out there. If BlackBerry 10 isn't impressive, do you think it's lights off for RIM? Um, I'd hate to think so naively. Um, my initial answer would be yes. My immediate response would be yes. But, I'm not going to pretend to be a business executive or a student of, that world. So, I'm not going to say definitely yes. And I mean, my immediate response is yeah, but, I'm not going to pretend to know everything about how that works. And so they may have something else going on, or maybe they have other options. So I'm not sure. Um, The Verge or Engadget, which is better for you? I actually read both. So, yeah. Do you think Dell Venue Pro will get updated even after they stop selling it? Probably not. Sydney, I'm in Puerto Rico and the Nexus 7 isn't here yet. Oh. Sydney, am I the only one who thinks that Android has no good user experience? Um, no, I think Android has gotten much better. Like in the past with Android 2.3 and prior, I would say yes, definitely. I've said before, it looks like a beta operating system. Um, Starting with Android 3.0 and really with Android 4.0, it's like a real operating system. I mean, it's real. It's like a real phone with pretty graphics and stuff. And I mean, yeah, they don't do anything. They just make it look prettier. But I mean, you need that. So, yeah, I used to, but now with Android 4.0, I think it's got a great user experience. What do you think of NFC tags and phones? I like the idea of NFC. I like some of the things that RIM is doing with it. Google, Android, and all those other people, even Windows Phone, they're basically just using it for like making mobile payments. RIM is really trying to implement it in like every part of your life in really practical ways, and that I think is the future of NFC. Not just mobile payments, but they're using it for everything, and I like those ideas. Um, Sydney, how do you deal with haters? Um, Sometimes they make me laugh because they're so stupid. And I know that sounds immature and cliche, but it's like there's always somebody who thinks they know more than you, but the bottom line is that they don't. I can talk to people who think they know more than me, and I'm just like, you don't know anything. So sometimes they make me laugh. Other times it's like, whatever, I have this job and you don't. So that's all. I don't have to prove myself to you. I already have. So you just kind of, you gotta let it go. Tell my way the Nexus 7 isn't in Puerto Rico and way it better. I have no idea what that sentence means. Sydney, what camera do you use to record dogfights and reviews? Let me see. It is a Canon HD. Oh, Vixia HF R100. Yeah. Sydney, you should get an Xbox. I have a PS3, and I like it better. What do you think of Google Glasses? It's alright. I think they look really dumb. I like the idea. I just wish there was a better way to implement it. Any news on an Android portrait sliding QWERTY keyword smartphone? No. But if you have NFC, what if someone hacks your phone or gives you a virus? Then all of your money would be gone, right? Well, your money is in your account, and your phone just has access to your account. So it's like on your computer, you can access your bank account, but it's not like your money is stored on your hard drive. So it'd be like that. I mean, someone can still get it. People still hack into computers, but I'm sure there's privacy measures in place that keep it really secure. Sydney, what do you think of Windows Phone 8? Looks good. I'm disappointed. I wish that these phones could be updated to Windows Phone 8. Did I say 7.8? He was talking about 7.8. Yeah, Windows Phone 7.8 looks good. I wish they could be updated to Windows Phone 8. I'm really disappointed by that. I understand, but I'm like, this better not happen again. But yeah, it's a good kind of medium way to keep everyone happy, I guess. Okay, why is the Nexus 7 not in Puerto Rico? There you have a Radio Shack and a Walmart. Why is it not in Puerto Rico? I don't know. No sé. Lo siento. When will AT&T LTE come to Montgomery? I have no idea. What computer are you currently using? A MacBook Pro. Dell Venue Pro International is getting updated. What do you think about the T-Mobile version? I thought I already answered that. I'll just work for Apple, okay? Who should make the next Nexus phone? Well, Samsung has made the last two, so I guess that would make sense. However, Google bought Motorola, so it would make sense for them to make it. But HTC made the best Nexus phone, so I think they should make it. So, honestly, I don't know, as long as it's not LG. How dumb is it to have all good Windows phones on AT&T? Blame the other carriers. AT&T wanted those phones, and so they got them. And T-Mobile, Verizon, and Sprint were like, nah, we're good. So, I don't know. It's dumb. Okay, hold on. Google should team with a glasses manufacturer for the design like Nike so people won't look dumb wearing them. Yeah, but then we'd have to wear glasses all the time, and I can tell you, I wore glasses from the time I was in third grade until I was like 18, and man, it sucked. So, no, I would not want that. Okay, I think this says something about bothering me with your questions. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm answering questions, so you can ask me all the questions you want. What do you think of more than one Nexus phone coming out at the same time? No, I think one is good. I mean, like, maybe, different versions with, like, more memory or something, but I think they should just have one. When you first started working for PhoneDog, were you nervous? Oh, yeah. My videos sucked. I mean, I go back and watch them now, and I'm just like, God, how did I get this job? It was horrible. But I got better, and I'm still getting better. I go back and watch my videos from 6 months ago, and I'm like, wow, I sucked. But it happens. Like, every 6 months, I get better. So, yeah, I was really nervous. But, you got to be confident. That was one thing I learned, not just PhoneDog, but just, stuff in life. If you don't know what you're doing, just act like you do and be confident, and people will, they'll respect that. Because, they don't know. They think they know what you're doing. HTC One X or Galaxy S3. International versions, I would say Galaxy S3. Well, actually, the US version, I would say the Galaxy S3. If you're comparing, like, US 1X to international Galaxy S3 or vice versa, I would go with the international version. Really, they're both pretty much equal. I just think the Galaxy S3 has a lot of cool software features. I like TouchWiz personally, but the 1X is an awesome phone. Sense is great. I mean, if you don't like TouchWiz and you prefer Sense, then the 1X is the best phone. I just happen to prefer TouchWiz. I suck at Spanish. Is there an easy way to learn Spanish? No. You're just gonna learn it. Oh, okay, now there's a lot of Spanish. Okay, the only thing I got out of that was that this is your first time here, and something about something. Your English isn't very good, but no, don't worry about it. I'll be the first to mention it. Basketball, go. No, I won't talk about basketball unless you want me to. But, yeah. Use Google Translate. I would. I don't have time. I just want to get to as many questions as possible. How was your day? It was pretty good. Just worked. Have you tried Plus lock screen for Windows Phone? I probably have. I've tried. There's only a couple of lock screen things for Windows Phone, and are you talking about, yeah, for Windows Phone? Are you talking about the ones for Windows Phone or the ones for Android that make it look like Windows Phone? Because I've tried those too, and Windows Phone, I think it's just like, it doesn't really do anything. It's just a, anyway. Sydney, can you sing? No. I mean, I can. Obviously, everyone can sing, but I'm not a very good singer. Are HD displays really that great? Saving for a new phone computer, which could be HTC One X, Xperia Ion. Well, that's a lot of options, and I don't really have time to take the Skyrocket out of there. I could probably take the Vivid out of there. Probably narrow it down to the Atrix, Ion, and 1X. And like I said earlier, I think the 1X is the best phone outside of the Galaxy S3. HD displays are really that great. Yes. I mean, you wouldn't think it is, but just look at one. It's amazing. But you gotta get like an HD display that's like, you know, super AMOLED or super LCD or something. They're awesome. Sydney, what were your electives in high school? Ugh, electives. I haven't been in high school in so long. I don't even know what electives are. Those are like those extra things, right? That are... You have to explain to me what electives are. Seriously, it's been... See, I'm 24, graduated 17. It's been like 6-7 years. So, why don't I like Motorola? I don't like Motorola because I don't like their hardware designs. It's a personal thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. I just don't like the way their phones look, basically. And I don't like their UI. I just don't like the way it looks. But, you know, that's just me. I mean, everyone, they make good phones. They make great phones. I just don't like the way they look. Celtics or Miami Heat? Celtics, I guess. Definitely not Miami Heat, so probably the Celtics. We haven't heard much lately about your singing neighbor. Would you care to enlighten us? My singing neighbor is actually downstairs, not my neighbor, which makes it even worse. I'm like, wow, you're singing really loud. Like, I could literally go outside and still hear the person singing. Also, turns out it was a dude, not a woman. Again, a surprising development. Anyway, long story short, I called the apartment office and I complained, and they said, okay, we'll call him, and it didn't stop, and so I called again, and they said, okay, we'll call him, and then it stopped. So, I hate to be like that person, but it's like, I'm not gonna put up with that. It was all day long. He's a horrible singer. It was crap. It was like not even singing words. It was just kind of like vocalizing. It was horrible. It was all day long. I work at home, and I was just like, you know what? Screw you. I'm not going to do this, okay? So, yeah. Packers or Cowboys? That's easy. Pack. Well, I mean, I'm from Dallas, so I don't like the Cowboys. I think they're not as good as, Cowboy fans think they are. I think Romo is a great quarterback. Um, but overall, I mean, and when you consider the whole team, I'd have to say the Packers. But I do like Romo. Were you a former diehard NSYNC fan? No, no, I was a Backstreet Boys fan. Yeah, I was a huge Backstreet Boys fan. I had every single album. My locker, I actually had pictures of the Backstreet Boys on my locker inside. Like, who does that? Like, people in movies. I actually did that. Of course, I was in sixth grade, so, I had a good excuse. I was in sixth grade. What was his name? Nick Carter. Yeah, Nick Carter. He was my favorite one. It was funny. I actually dated a guy whose name was Nick. It was not because I had a crush on Nick Carter, but I mean, it was kind of cool. I was like, hey, I have a crush on Nick Carter and your name's Nick. Even though it was just the first name, it didn't have the same last name. Of course, I was in sixth grade. I was 12, so that relationship lasted for like a month. We didn't even hold hands or hug. It was really dumb. And then he broke up with me and went out with this blonde girl who played he played the trombone. She played the tuba. I played the trumpet. We were all in band. Anyway, okay. Have you ever used a Segway? No, I haven't. When will we see quad-core LTE? I don't know. Sydney, I'm thinking of changing my HTC Inspire. You're thinking of changing it to get a new one? That's awesome. Sydney, any advice for entering high school and being successful? High school. Being successful in high school. You know what? Just do it. Just go to school. Do your homework. Just pass, basically. High school sucks. I'm not going to lie to you. High school sucks. Whenever you get out of school, it will be the greatest feeling in the world. Oh, don't believe the lies, okay? AP classes, you have to take this class or else you won't be able to get into college and you'll be a loser for... It's all lies, okay? It's all lies. Just remember that. Do it. Do what they say because, you have to get an education. But just remember, it's all lies, okay? SATs, I don't even know what my SAT score was. And I went to college. It was just like, stupid. HTC One S or Galaxy Nexus, HTC One X. Which phone should I buy? Galaxy S3. Any advice for a starter Android phone on a budget? I don't know. Not T-Mobile. T-Mobile's budget phones suck. Sprint's budget phones suck. AT&T has good budget phones. But I can't think of any right now. I'm in all honors and AP classes. Okay, so your life is gonna suck, and it's all pointless. Okay, she's 24, but she looks 16. I know, but I'm 24. Sydney, when will the next Nexus phone come out? Probably sometime this fall or winter. I graduate high school this year. I'm the oldest person here. Am I the oldest person here? I'm going to college for game design. That's awesome. Why is the Nexus 7 better than the Playbook? Because it just is. It's a better operating system in my opinion, better specs overall. It's just a better tablet. What about the next fanboy war? I'm not sure. I have nothing planned. Sydney, you're mean. It depends on what college you go to. Okay, here's the thing. Colleges, all they want is your money, okay? They don't care what your GPA was. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be a loser. I mean, you don't want to have, like, D's and C's and all that crap. But as long as you can pay, you can go to college, okay? If you want to go to Harvard or some, like, Ivy League college, okay, fine. But, I mean, let's face it, okay? We're not, unless your parents are making friggin', like, $100,000 a year, okay, fine. But for normal people, for normal students, as long as you have money, you can get into college. You go to school, you get good grades, you study, you try your best, but all that crap about AP classes... Okay, here's the thing. I took AP classes, okay, and I did the test at the end of the year where if you pass it, you get college credits, and you don't have to take that class in college, okay? I failed that test because... well, I didn't care. I wasn't a very good student. I mean, I was a good student. I got like A's and B's, but I wasn't really trying. If I tried, I could have been like in the top, 5% probably. But anyway, so I failed that test. So later on, when I wanted to go to college and I was going to get my degree and all that, you take the entrance exams and they test you on English, math, and all that. And I passed English and math and everything else, so I didn't have to take those classes when I went to get my degree. And it's like, so I failed the AP class, which they said meant I would not be able to get into college and I'd have to take them all over again. But I just take this test and I'm done. I don't have to take those classes. They don't tell you that. It's all lies. Anyway, I'm gonna get fired for like telling kids to not listen to their parents. But anyway, I'm not saying that. Couldn't you guys know that? Okay, it's 5:01, which means I gotta go. And oh, you know what? Facebook didn't even load correctly. Well, good thing I didn't check it because I wouldn't have been able to read it. It's 5:01. Thanks guys for watching. I'm sorry I rambled on about college and high school and how it's a lie and everything, but just high school really sucks. And as long as you can just get good grades and get out of there without getting into drugs and getting pregnant, then I think you will be a success. I will see you guys next week. Same time, 5 p.m. Eastern time on Ustream or the recording on YouTube. But again, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.